Just welcome Northwestern University. Let me send you the flyer.
I'm sorry, we did not consent to recording of this seminar, so I'm not comfortable with that. I'm sorry about that.
Hi, everybody. We're just going to give it about 5 minutes for us to have at least 50 people to start. Dean Adi, I took note of that, and it was stopped. Apologies. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Juliet, I will let Nell and Gina handle this presentation. I'm sorry, I have to leave. Sorry.
Adi? Oh, sorry. Okay, given the time constraints and the time we had actually indicated, I think it will be a good time to start as we let participants come through the space. Welcome to this segment of the Young Lawyers Standard Law Society, overseen by the Young Lawyers Committee. It was a program that was initiated and thought of by a few senior lawyers and young lawyers who thought that it would be necessary to lawyers that are coming into practice, a sort of place where information can be shared in circumstances where you, and this is to make your career the different hallmarks of legal practice, and not only legal practice, but the legal sector in general, because because we have a spectrum of practitioners under Uganda Law Society and in the world. So as you have noticed that most of our previous speakers and guests have been talking about postgraduate education, the country, the knowledge and exposure again of the law outside the country, appreciation. So we have been trying to echo the message around postgraduate education. And we were privileged to have Elizabeth Nankunda, an alumnus of Northwestern University, reach out and connect us conversation about postgraduate programs they have at their university. And that's because, of course, Elizabeth was pretty impressed and humbled by the education that she received and the exposure and the invaluable knowledge. So that is why we're here today. And we're privileged to have with us Dean Adi Shutla Al-Shla was supposed to be with us. She's been on the call, but due to a few delays, she has had to leave the call as well. So we'll be missing her. Maybe she'll log on later on, but for now she has dropped off to attend to some urgent matters. We will also have Neil Navarra, the Associate Director of International Student support. We national student engagement, very own Homeless Nankunda, and they will lead the discussion. They will tell us about education is important and why Northwestern and what programs it has to offer and what their programs for international students are looking like right now. So they'll take us through. But before they do that, our chairperson of the Young Lawyers Committee, Derek Bazekuketa, would like to give a welcome note to the ladies. So Derek, over to you.
Where are the gentlemen? All right, thank you so much. My name is Derek. I'm the chairperson of the Young Lawyers Committee of the Uganda Law Society. The Young Lawyers constitute a significant part of the Uganda Law Society. And a young lawyer is a lawyer who has less than 5 years experience as an attorney, as an advocate here in Uganda. So it's very, very important that we mentor and help the young lawyers get into practice. So I think as part of this, we organize mentorship series and activities, trainings that are. Sorry?
No, it's okay. We had lost you, but it's okay.
Yeah. So some of these activities are intended to help the young lawyers be nurtured and grow into the profession. So thank you, the participants and the panelists and everyone who's going to be part of this discussion. And I hope that we will be able to interact and ask questions and benefit from this discussion. Thank you so much, Julie. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I am going to be a student as well today to learn from Neil and Gina, as well as Elizabeth, about the postgraduate programs and what we can expect for international students like Ugandans and people who are interested. So please, over to you. Share with us whatever information you can give. Or just before you start, if you have a question, please drop it in the Q&A. Please don't drop it in the chat to make it easier to identify the question. For those of you who may not know where the Q&A is, it's just after the icon of participant. There's another icon that says Q&A. But if you drop it in the chat, I will also look for it.
Thank you. So, Sheena, okay. So hi, everyone. Thank you for attending today. So we are from Northwestern, and again, I will echo my apologies. Dee Altschuler, our Assistant Dean of Students and Dean of International Programs, had an urgent last-minute issue. So,
try as much as possible to eat. So over to you.
Okay.
So we're sharing the screen so that you can follow the presentation.
All right. Are we good?
Yes, we're good. We can see it.
Okay, so as I said, I apologize for Dee Altschuler. She had an urgent issue, but Gina and I are here along with Elizabeth, one of our favorite recent alums, of course, to tell you a little bit about studying at Northwestern, studying in the US, and our program. So I am Nell Navarra. I'm the Associate Director of International Student Support, as we mentioned, and then I have Gina, who can introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name's Gina Song, and I'm the Assistant Director for International Student Engagement. And I'm coming to you from the Law School's courtyard.
And I'm from, I think, like a beach near the law school. I mean, obviously I'm in my living room, but you know. All right. So I know that what we are going to do today, we have a presentation here, but I think a lot of the points that were sent to us ahead of time, we're covering in here. But of course, as you have questions, please share. And Juliet, as we're presenting, please feel free to interrupt us, or of course, we'll have time at the end to do open Q&A. So with that, I guess we could go ahead and get started. So a little bit about law schools in the US in general. Just some of you might know this, some of you may not. It's very student-centered education. So that kind of goes from beginning to end of the program. One thing you might know, this is a good example in the picture, is we're kind of famous for using the Socratic method, which is, I don't know if Elizabeth likes that or not. A lot of professors will often just, what we say, cold call on students, kind of ask them questions throughout the class. It's a very interactive style of learning, and it really kind of helps. You know, the idea behind it, of course, is that it helps with students more fully understand the topic matter and be an active part of the learning process. At all schools, in Northwestern in particular, there's a great focus on, practice-ready graduates. So for students who are coming from abroad, so you're already young lawyers, practicing lawyers, you're already practice-ready, of course, but then the idea of, after you complete the program here is that you are fully armed with this kind of new set of skills to augment your already robust set of skills and kind of immediately bring those back into the workforce. And especially at Northwestern, we're looking a lot at the changes in the legal profession and how lawyers themselves can function as change agents in society, but also how, as the legal profession has changed, how that affects global practice. Go to the next slide. So a little bit about Northwestern in particular. So it is one of the top rated law schools in the US and throughout the world. So in the US, we have the top law schools in the US, we call the T14 schools. It's a group of 14 schools that are historically known as the best law schools. And Northwestern is one of those. So very often when students are, looking for a program abroad, they're seeking out one of these T14 schools. We have a great deal of internationally renowned scholars teaching, visiting, etc. One thing that's nice about it is a very low student to faculty ratio. I suppose if you're somebody who wants to hide in a large classroom, that won't work well, but I think for most of you, I'm sure you're happy to engage with the professor, engage with the students. And we'll talk a little bit more later about some of the practical aspects of those classes, but that student to faculty ratio really helps with that as well. We also have a lot of options for specialization. So I know we're not exactly going through the Q&A just yet, but I quickly saw some questions about different topic areas like sports law, business law. And I guarantee you, if there's a type of law you're interested in, we probably have at least one class on that, and a lot of outside opportunities to engage with learning communities. Another key feature of our LLM program, if those of you who've started maybe researching LLM programs, maybe if you haven't, a lot of LLM programs, you sort of come and you're wholly isolated with your LLM cohort. All of your classes are just with the LLMs. A really big important difference of the Northwestern program is that the LLMs are integrated with our JD students, our domestic, first degree students, in and out of the classroom. It doesn't mean, I do think at the end of the day, most LLMs, their good friends are going to be other LLMs, but there is that interaction. And I think in the classroom, it's especially important because the JD students really love to hear from the LLMs and their experiences. And I think that's for both sets of students, I think it's a really big benefit of Northwestern. You also have a dedicated team that's me and Gina and Adi. We also have a program assistant to really help specifically with LLM needs. And of course, as Elizabeth is now a part of this prestigious alumni network. So Elizabeth, welcome. I don't know if you know that you are in a prestigious network now, but this is one of the things that, this whole webinar is a great example of the ways in which alumni continue to share Northwestern throughout the world, connect to others, and build your network moving forward. So our specific LLM program, which is what we're here to talk about today, it's a general LLM program, and it is a 9-month program, meaning it starts late August, ends in May, which 9 months may seem like a long time, but it goes by extremely quickly. The graduation requirements, so you have to take 20 credits throughout that year. Every class at the law school is between 2 to 4 credits. So if you kind of want to use that math to think of how many credits you can take. There are only 2 mandatory classes, and these are ones that you would only be with LLMs in because there are some classes that are specifically designed. One is common law reasoning, which is a nice name for basically a legal writing class, those of you who like legal writing. And you have to take 1 course in American legal studies. We have 2 options for that currently. There's a civil procedure version and there's a constitutional law version. So even within the mandatory courses, you get a bit of selection. But beyond those 4 credits, you're 16 or more, most students end up taking more than 20 credits, are completely yours to design. So you could choose from our wide variety of course offerings offered each semester. Some students like to sort of more fully hone the skills they already have. Some like to explore something different. There's a wide breadth of opportunity there.
And the LLM experience. I'm going to just do a little bit of talking about this, but because we have Elizabeth here, who better to talk about the experience than a former alum herself. But a lot of this Nell just covered in the classroom. Like Linnell said, all but 2 classes you'll be with the JD, fully integrated with the JD students. There's plenty of professional development opportunities, whether that's a skill building course, like negotiation, public service opportunities. If any of you plan on taking the bar, we have the New York bar in particular, we have a public service and pro bono office that'll help you find those public service hours, networking, and then of course legal English. And Nell will cover a little bit more about the ESL a little bit later, but she is our English language expert at the law school. And then personal development. You'll work with us, you'll work with Adi, we'll figure out what your goals are. Of course, you may have obstacles coming to a new environment, but we'll work with you on overcoming those. And then mindfulness, we have a mindfulness expert at the law school, and they host plenty of events and whatnot to, because the year can be stressful, plenty of opportunities for you to have those opportunities. But Elizabeth, if you want to talk a little bit more about the LLM experience and your experience.
Thank you, Gina. Well, it was an amazing 1 year that goes by so fast. You get to meet people from all over the world, from South America, from Nigeria, from France, from England. That the class is very, very diverse. And in terms of the classroom, well, the classes are really, really small. So most of the classes that I took actually had about 20 to 25 students. So it's really, really hands-on teaching, and you don't get to hide behind, in law school, we used to love the back seats or, on the side where the lecturer won't see you. Here, it's very different because you're just 20 people in the class and everyone gets to participate. In terms of the subjects of interest, anything you're interested in, whether it is, sports law, animal rights, environmental law, anything that you can think of, there is a class for it. So you will not feel like, actually the biggest challenge we had, especially with the first semester, is like, I've run out of credits because you cannot take more than, I think, 17 at a time. So yeah, but yeah, there's so many things that you want to learn and there's so many options to choose from. So it was quite exciting. And then in terms of, well, they're only talking about the classroom side of things. There's also lots of social things to do. And Chicago is a very, very beautiful city. So talk of watching basketball, talk of, music concerts, I don't know, shows at the Chicago Theater. There's a lot to choose from. Also, as the LLMs, you always find ways to like have activities going on. I served on the LLM committee, so we had plenty of events planned out inside the school and outside. And then also the location of the school is located by the lake. It's very, very beautiful. So it provides a very, very conducive atmosphere for learning. And the support is amazing. Nell and Gina will be there for you for anything, whether it's school related, whether it's personal, or whether you just want a place to talk, because there's a lot of changes happening if you come for a program like this in terms of culture. There's the culture shock. There's the winter that comes along the way. So there's so many things that you have to adjust to, different language, different ways of doing things. But there is support at the school for that. There's also, I don't know if you'll talk about it, but there's like a dedicated welfare, what was it called? Wellness ambassador. Yes, I was a wellness ambassador. So there's a dedicated wellness program to make sure that you're in the right mental space to perform well on your academics. There's also a counseling and psychological services support. So they make it there. They make sure that you have everything it takes to succeed. So I got in there, I took some of the hardest classes and I still graduated with honors. So I had to put in the work, but they make it easy for you to put in the work. So it's a very beautiful experience. And unless people have like specific questions, it's kind of hard to like, talk about all of it. So yeah, I'll let Nell continue the presentation.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That was very nice. We'll expand upon a little bit about what Elizabeth said about the social and the experience outside of the classroom. So I'll touch on integration and community. This was last year, this photo of orientation last year. But you start your LLM year at Northwestern with a week-long orientation. And we give you all the information you could ever want to know about Northwestern and how to find resources and whatnot. But you have a week-long orientation before your LLM year begins. We talked about classrooms already, student government. So at most law schools here, we have what's called an SBA, Student Bar Association. That's our student government. And there is a position specifically for an LLM student. That's an elected position. It's a leadership position. So if you want to work on behalf of your LLM class, you are welcome to run for that position. There are plenty of student organizations, I believe over 40, anything from affinity related to specific practice areas, like say you're practicing labor and employment. So a lot of student organizations to get involved with, plenty of leadership opportunities, and that's like the LLM graduation speaker, and that's also you get nominated and the LLM class votes for it, and you get to speak. It's very special at the Chicago Theater, downtown Chicago at graduation. And like Elizabeth said, we admit LLMs from all over the world. It's usually from more than 20 different countries. And all the students that we meet, or all the students that become our LLMs, are very cordial, very collegial, and I think have a very supportive community. So we have really, really wonderful students that come join us.
Setting aside the fun stuff, back to the courses again, because that is sort of, I think at the end of the day, probably the most important part of an LLM program, but maybe not the most fun. But I did want to kind of build upon what Elizabeth mentioned, but a lot of this we've already talked about. So as she said, there are a lot of courses offered, more than 100. I think the problem Elizabeth mentioned is 100% true. Students always struggle to pick because a lot of them sound great. A lot of them are really interesting. And I think it's a good problem to have, but I guess it is a problem. So we should acknowledge that that is a problem some students face. But we have also a very diverse faculty and different kind of types of faculty. So we have some who are adjuncts, meaning they're probably practicing during the day and then they come and teach a class maybe at night or maybe just like once a week. So that can be a great experience to sort of learn from someone who is actively practicing like the material they're teaching you. We have some residential faculty who are, they're more full-time faculty researching, have been teaching for quite a long time, very well renowned. We also have a lot of interdisciplinary experts. So we're part of the larger Northwestern University. We're located in Chicago. Northwestern is a little bit further in Evanston, but because of our connection there, sometimes we might have PhD scholars kind of coming from the Evanston campus, kind of working with some of our law faculty. So there's a great access to some of that interdisciplinary work. And we've already talked about, again, the student to faculty ratio. So again, it's a great way of, especially with some of the subject matter can be, new and overwhelming. It's a nice thing to be able to always talk to your professors. They're always very accessible to you. Okay, it's okay. Jean is in charge of the slides. Some general curricular highlights. Again, I'm not going to go through like every class we offer, but there are some kind of categories that we do attract students from those areas. Probably our most famous is law and business. We get a lot of students quite interested in law and business. We do have some courses offered at the law school that are what we call co-listed with our Kellogg School of Management, which is again kind of part of that larger Northwestern community. So what that means is you're getting classes that are just law students, but they are taught by the business faculty in areas of like business strategy, accounting. So a lot of our students take advantage of those courses and those opportunities. We also have the Donald Pritzker, a lot of things named after Pritzker at the law school and in Chicago. The Entrepreneurship Law Center. So this is a really great, the center offers a lot of classes, but also a lot of conferences, programs, guest speakers. So if you have some interest in that area, and even if you're not able to take a class, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't have access to that like entrepreneurial side of things or a lot of the other topics covered. A really big growing field that we have a lot of attention for right now is law and technology. As you're aware, there's a lot of constantly changing things in law and technology that I can't understand, but our faculty are keeping up with. We have courses in things like AI and legal reasoning, which is a newer one, which is, obviously very interesting. Cryptocurrencies. A new one that I particularly found wild was space commerce. So when Elizabeth mentioned all the different areas, like from sports law to business, we even are starting to cover space law. Litigation. So if you are someone who wants more practice opportunities, we do have a Vismoot team. We do also have courses in dispute resolution. Again, we have like one class that's just dispute resolution in sports, which I think a lot of students find really interesting. Trial advocacy, which is a class that you can actually, you go through kind of the whole trial process. And then general lawyering skills, things like negotiation. And also sort of lawyering in the general legal profession. So things like learning, ethics, which are obviously very important for lawyers, client strategies. So really the list goes on and on. But the key here is I think that it's really, like we said, other than the 2 classes you have to take, you're really free to pick. And sometimes, but we also have the support, which I'll talk about in a second, to kind of help you pick. So you're not just throwing you out there with no assistance. So moving on then to support services opportunities. So at Northwestern, we have a program called ACE, which is our Integrated Support Services and Opportunities specifically for the LLM students. So ACE stands for academic, curricular, career, cultural, because we do the triple duty with the C, and English excellence. So we designed ACE back several years, quite a while ago. It was Adi sort of spearheaded this because we had all of us working, to support just the LLM students, and we wanted the LLM students to kind of understand that we were also all working together. So if Gina does a program, I'm kind of helping lend my expertise to that, and vice versa. And so that way we kind of get a sense of what the LLMs need and try to provide it to them, because it's not usually just one thing. All of these things have a hand in one another. So I'll talk a little bit about how each of these looks during the time here. First is academic excellence, which again is very important, so you can graduate with honors too. We have what we call ACE advisors. So those are JD students who will kind of work in they'll do like office hours, but also they'll kind of be assigned to each group of students, and they're there to help you learn how to really succeed in the US law classroom, because they're students who have done really well in their first or second years at the law school. And so even though, of course, you all have great experience and you've been practicing, there's still sometimes a shift to the US classroom. And the ACE advisors are there specifically to help with that, rather than just general academic support. They're also looking at that comparative difference. And I think that's really important for the LLMs to kind of to have people there who understand that there's a framework you're working from that's a little bit different than maybe a US law student. As I mentioned too, we have a lot of curricular advising. So this is what I'm saying. You need to pick those classes. At the end of the day, of course, it's your choice. We're not going to force you into what to pick. But if you need some help trying to figure it out, because I think it is kind of overwhelming at times. Adi does sessions, Adi does individual consultations. We have a lot of webinars just to help you sort of think about what your goals are, figure out what you want to learn from your time here, and help make sure that you're making the best decisions and taking the best opportunity of your time at Northwestern.
I'll talk a little bit about the career excellence portion. We have a full-time dedicated LLM career advisor that only works with LLM students when it comes to preparing for, applying for a job or interviewing or helping with your resume, putting together your LinkedIn. She puts workshops once a month just for LLM students to help further develop those skills. And then we have a public interest center. I had mentioned this earlier, but there are pro bono opportunities that they offer. So if you have time, we always encourage our students to take advantage of those, especially if you're going to take the New York bar. And then leadership opportunities. Elizabeth touched on this because Elizabeth was one of my LLM committee members last year. But the LLM committee, it's a very small group, usually about 5 to 6 students, that plans academic, social, and professional events on behalf of their class. It's fun. They work with me, and it's really just a joy for me to get to know the students better and to help them plan these really fun events for the class, but also for sometimes for the entire law school as well. Elizabeth, do you want to talk a little bit more about anything that comes to mind when it comes to the LLM committee?
Well, it's just a student leadership, like a point of contact between the students and the administration in terms of planning events. So we just get ideas from the students about what they want to do or what's currently happening with them, and then relay the information, and then plan out events. We're meeting weekly, and really it was a fun experience, and you get to really develop close relationships with the people you work with. Really, but mostly we did the fun social events. We didn't plan. I think we planned only 2 academic events. The rest was just fun games and social events that we focused on.
I mean, most of your experience while you're here with us for the LM is academic related. So I think we need a little bit of fun too. But all of these photos are from last year, things that Elizabeth and the rest of the committee had planned. The top was, I think one of the socials maybe in Loudon Hall, I think it's one of our most iconic rooms in the law school, but it's very cozy, a good place for student gatherings. Below that was our LM committee. Elizabeth, along with the 4 other members there at graduation at the Chicago Theater, and then to the left, they planned a Lunar New Year event, and so they invited the entire law school, and we celebrated that. But like Elizabeth was saying, the LM committee is really our eyes and ears of the LM class. They give us feedback, any concerns, comments, anything that the students may have. They relay that to us, so very helpful. Other leadership opportunities. I mentioned the Student Bar Association. That's our student government. There is a dedicated LM representative every year. Student organization leadership positions. So we have over 40 different student orgs, and in most of those student organizations, there is a dedicated LLM representative leadership position. Class gift committee. So if you would like to work with alumni relations, they are always looking for LLM alumni or LLM students to work with the class gift committee. Global Village Committee, we will touch on Global Village in a minute, but Global Village is one of our most biggest and best events at the law school. But again, we'll share more on that in a little bit. Graduation speaker, again, students, you can get nominated, then voted to speak at graduation, which is a huge honor. And then sharing of expertise. So every year we try to put together a few lawyers around the world panels. LLMs come to the program with work experience. And so we like to share that and highlight that with the law school community.
So one of the things I'll touch upon, I realize for this audience, it's not exactly super relevant because of you're speaking English. However, it is my job, so I feel like I have to, show up here. I do all the legal English support at the law school, and so what I will say is, I will admit, I don't think Elizabeth had any need to come to my programming while she was there, which is fine. I was not offended in any way. But one of the things that is unique about the program is not many LLM programs have someone in my role. A lot of times they have language support, but it's usually from the central university, which means it might be someone who's kind of helping students across all graduate programs. So what's helpful about my role is I work specifically at the law school, dealing specifically with legal English. And so the reason why I wanted to emphasize that is, even if you come to the school speaking English already, there is sort of a different way that we use the language here in the US, and there's a different way of communication that may still be kind of new for you. Even our domestic students, they come to the JD program, and it's sometimes they say they feel like they're learning a new language entirely. So with that, I said, I don't know that you will necessarily want to join my discussion groups and my debate club, but there are a lot of opportunities to still improve your communication skills, improve your communication style. And really, especially with the writing support we have, you'll have to do a lot of writing for class, and you are eligible for our writing lab, which gives you opportunities to kind of get your assignments checked and reviewed beforehand. And those are all things that I help run and I help coordinate, and they can really just sort of help give you that extra boost in the classroom as well.
And then back to the fun stuff.
Sorry, I'm the boring one of the two of us, so I will just stay quiet now.
Global Conversations, we try to host this once a semester, but we partner with the Center on Negotiation Mediation, Professor Daniel Gandert, who will train or put together facilitator workshops so that we could put together this event, which is Global Conversations is basically an event a dinner time event where we have small roundtable discussions. We invite the entire law school community. And it's a way for LLMs to get to know students outside of the LLM program, maybe some American JD students, in just a relaxed setting. And so outside of the classroom with dinner. And so it makes for usually a very nice event. Lunch lectures, we invite faculty to come speak to LMs for about a 1 hour lecture during the weekday. And then when we can, we try to host local field trips, whether to courts or elsewhere, but we do try to do that. Moot court, Nell touched upon this. We have the VIS Moot team. And so if you haven't passed the bar in your home country, I think you are eligible to apply for VIS Moot. And then soccer matches, if you are a soccer or football player, I'm not sure what you call it in Uganda, soccer, football.
Okay.
Soccer, okay. Most of the world calls it, okay, so most of the world calls it football, but we tried to host a soccer match against Kellogg, the business school, and or against the UChicago LLM students, and so that's very fun for us and the students. Thanksgiving, and so this host program has kind of just turned into the SBA, I think, hosting a big Thanksgiving event for the law school community. So they, take out the main common area at the law school and just host your very typical Thanksgiving dinner items, turkey, mashed potatoes, corn, that sort of stuff. And then Global Village.
So I guess we'll both talk about this. So as Gina said, this is the biggest, the most popular, the coolest, the best of event at the law school. So every year students sign up and they get a table or do performances to represent their country or region. And we briefly provide a budget for them to serve food. And it's a massive event. Like it's the most, other than orientation, it's probably the biggest event at the actual law school, I guess, orientation and graduation. And the reason why it's so great, I think it's not just LLMs who participate. We have a lot of international students in our JD program as well. But what's nice about it, I think, is it really, the popularity of it and the sheer vastness of it, I think highlights the law school's commitment to the international community, the value of our international students. And it's a really great way for us all to come together. Gina, I don't know if you can add more if you want.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, no.
We're done. No more from Gina about Global Village.
No, there was another, I thought there was another slide. No, no, it truly, words can't even describe just the energy of this event. It's our favorite. We look forward to it every year. Food, music, dance, performances. And so it's a great way to highlight our community here at the law school. Now, this is just the graduation photo from last year in front of the Chicago Theater. Always a really great day. And then I'll touch on post-graduation. Where do our alums go? So most of our alumni return to the home country to either work at a law firm, corporation, government entities, NGOs, IGOs. But there are a small number of short-term U.S. positions open at law firms and corporations that our students can get or find employment at. But the majority, yes, do go back to their home country to work. The alumni network that Elizabeth is now a part of, it's a large global network of alums. We have alums literally everywhere in the world. Plenty of networking opportunities, plenty of, I think, social events amongst the various alumni groups. If alumni is ever back in Chicago, hint, hint, Elizabeth, we invite them to a global legal practice series where they can talk about the work that they're doing now, and how the LLM has prepared them for that. And then every year we have alumni reunion weekends. We have one coming up at the end of the month. every year they assign certain years, I think, for these reunions, but we invite alumni back. Alumni services, I think we have a dedicated alumni career advisor now that helps with alums. And then of course, I work with the LLM Mentors program. This is a newer initiative that started about 3 years ago from LLM committee members of that year, where we match LLM alums with current LLM students. And so it's a great way for them to be resources really for each other. I think the alums like to be connected to the law school, but obviously the students get a lot of help and assistance from the alums as well.
And I finally get a chance to talk about something more fun to build on what Elizabeth was saying. Chicago itself, it's an amazing city. It's one of the biggest cities in the US with the 3rd largest legal market. It has a vibrant legal and business community. That's really the main reason the law school is located on the downtown campus, is so you have access to that community of firms, businesses, corporations, all housed in Chicago. It's also got a lot of different neighborhoods. So Chicago is kind of well known for being a city of immigrants, which means it has a series of neighborhoods throughout the city. I live in Ukrainian Village, for example, and there are, when it comes to Global Village, for example, all the students like go out around and find restaurants and people from their countries, and they're able to sort of bring that sense of home, I think, into that experience as well. Also, it's a big sports city. There's the picture on the left is from a Bulls game. And then the one on top was from the White Sox game, baseball game, right during orientation. So if you're a sports fan, or if you're not, I am not a huge sports fan myself, but I find going to the games is actually very fun. So you would probably enjoy that. And also just the city itself. The picture on the right, that was last year, the LLM committee hosted, just kind of amongst themselves, big group of students to explore the city during this event called Open House Chicago, when the city sort of opens its doors to some of its most iconic buildings for guests. And so you can go kind of view all of these amazing places throughout the city. The law school itself, which you can kind of see in my picture behind me, is located right on the lake. It's Lake Michigan. So we do have beaches. I know that everyone, when they think Chicago, just thinks cold and snow. And I do realize, I know that if I say cold isn't that bad, Elizabeth will probably correct me. So I do understand that our sense of cold is different than yours, perhaps. That being said, we also have a lot of great shopping. So there's a lot of coats, there's a lot of boots, there's a lot of hats you can buy. And it really is just, it's a very typical American city. And I think that if you're living in the US for a year, it's a really great way of kind of getting a sense of American culture. And even though, you're in this very big city, it's international, but distinctly American. And it's also very easy to get around. I personally don't own a car myself, so it's not the type of thing you would need to do. We give you free access on public transit as well.
Yeah, we're both public transit people, so that's where the law school is located. So we've convinced you to apply now. You love Chicago, you love Northwestern. How do you apply for the LLM program? So the application is open now. It opens September 1st. And it usually, if you're not ready this year, next year, the year following, it usually opens on September 1st. And it usually ends, or the deadline is usually January 15th. You'll need to create an LSAC account. So you go to www.lsac.org and you create a free LLM account, and that is good for 5 years. You complete the application itself, the personal statement, proof of language. So if you have a TOEFL or IELTS, you can submit that. Otherwise, I think for you can submit a TOEFL waiver. And so that's a short form, and then maybe a online video interview that you need to complete, but pretty easy to do that. And then a resume or a CV. And again, that optional interview, if you do need to submit a TOEFL waiver or TOEFL IELTS waiver, you would complete that interview. The admissions process, it's a holistic review. They look at everything. It's Mary Beth Busby in the admissions office, who's spearheads the LLM admissions. You look at your academic, your professional experience. Just so you all know, generally LLMs before they come to do their LLM with us at Northwestern, they have an average of 2.6 years of work experience. So that, I think that feeds into a very more mature and collegial and et cetera environment at the law school, because students come with work experience. And that goes for JDs too. Most come with work experience as well. Scholarships, there's no additional application for scholarships. You're automatically under consideration, and they look at your both need and merit. And so this is awarded on a rolling basis once the applications have closed. So usually after January 15th. But again, no further work or application needed for this. They'll automatically consider you.
And that's really the end of our portion of this, besides the Q&A, but these are just our contact details again, and we can make sure that Juliet has these to distribute. One person who has not been part of the presentation, but as Gina mentioned, is Mary Beth Busby, who is our director of admissions. So she's the one who's, usually in contact regarding the admissions process as well. So it's a name to look out for, and someone definitely you can reach out to if you have questions about that. So that's us, that's all of us, but all of our presentation, but we can kind of go over to the Q&A. I don't know if someone wants to, in terms of there were some questions about scholarships, I know, which I think Gina touched upon. I don't know if there's other questions answered, Gina. I don't know.
Gina and Neil, thank you so much, as well as Elizabeth. I'd like to disturb Elizabeth a little bit more on the cold and the difference, But before I get to that, just before we dismiss of the scholarship question, I think Bira Janet was asking if you offer fully funded scholarships. Now, when Gina was talking about it, she said that once you apply, the school considers how they will determine who gets a scholarship or not. But she did not confirm whether it's full, partial, or if there are specific applications outside even of the school's options that can support someone while on LLM.
I think there are always outside opportunities. I think I would encourage students to always look for outside scholarships to help fund their LLM. The fully funded scholarship, that really depends on your merit and need. And Mary Beth and her team takes a look at that and figures out how to give those scholarships. But I think if you have further questions about that, Mary Beth would honestly be a better resource for scholarships. She is our admissions, she is our main point of contact in terms of LLM admissions. So I would encourage you to reach out to Mary Beth Busby.
All right, that's great. Then also, as you mentioned, that it's upon the university to issue these scholarships. So when you say need-based, does it mean that the person applying indicates that they have a need? How do they indicate? How does the university get to know that someone has a need? Is it something that they need to put in their personal statement? Is it communication they need to make directly to Mary?
That's a good question. I believe there are a few questions within the application to assess your need. So it's not within the personal statement or anything like that. There are separate questions within the application.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be part of the essays itself. There are questions on the application form, so all students would answer.
Okay, then there are other questions that are not on this platform that have come through on the site.
Okay.
Regarding your extra courses, if a student takes on a program at the School of Law, how many extra credits or courses can they take outside those that are mandatory for the LLM? And then are they restricted to Kellogg's and the entrepreneurship school?
So I think as Elizabeth mentioned, so you only need 20 credits to graduate, which would technically be 10 each semester. However, you can take up to 17 credits each semester. 17 is the max. We typically don't recommend that. The rule of thumb we use is it's about 2 hours of work outside the classroom for every 1 hour you're in the classroom. I'm not a math person, but if you do that math, it can add up. So there's no additional, you can take up to 17 credits, no issues. The minimum you can take would be 8 a semester, and that's for visa purposes. You are limited, if you want law credit for the classes, you're limited to the classes at the law school. And then of course we have some classes that are what we call co-listed with Kellogg, and those sort of count as law classes. However, every Kellogg, the business school, is on a quarter system. So every quarter, Kellogg does offer opportunities for students in other programs to take some of their classes if there are open seats available. And that can be, it'll just vary greatly, but you can also take those classes through Kellogg. However, they would still count, like let's say you take a class at Kellogg that's 1.5 credits, you'd still have to cap out at 16. So that would mean you could only take 15.5 credits. Sorry, I told you I'm not a math person at the law school. So that's really where most students kind of, that's the one place where students would take classes kind of outside of the law. But the other, classes and opportunities offered outside of the law school aren't going to count for the law credit, which is important. But again, at the sort of, we have like a variety of like clinics, the Entrepreneurship Law Center, all of these places offer a lot of opportunities not for credit that you can still kind of gain a sense of whatever that extra topic area is that maybe you couldn't fit in a class, but you'd like to have some practice with. And the student orgs themselves do as well. So we have student orgs that might be focused on a very specific field of study. And those are great opportunities for you to like further engage with the network from your practice area.
Okay, thank you. Anna would like to know, you mentioned pre-arrival sessions, which Dean Addy sometimes takes part of. Her question is, when are these pre-arrival sessions conducted, and are they easily accessible? Because there are universities where you try to register for pre-sessions or information sessions, and they tell you they're booked out till 2 years in advance. So I think, how accessible are these sessions? And are pre-arrivals upon admission, or are pre-arrivals like this session, an information session? Yeah.
So there's actually probably 2 levels of that. So we have so the admissions process, as Gina stated, starts in January. And then we have, starting in, I believe maybe like March, Gina, would you say ish? The admissions team hosts a series of webinars on various topic matters for admitted students. So these are often students who are admitted, but maybe they haven't confirmed they're coming yet, but it's post-admission. So it would only be for admitted students. And that covers things like, one is always on housing, one is always on like the visa process, one is on career strategy. Gina and I always do one about the fun stuff. Adi usually does one about curriculum, etc. So that's usually like March into April-ish. And then over the summer, that's when, okay, like now you're officially coming to the law school. We do have a pre-matriculation program, which is a residential 4-week program that takes place in the summer. That's called LEAF, Legal English and Foundations. But then we also, so starting in July into August, we have all students who are coming to the program, we host curricular webinars to help, because you have to pick your classes before you come. So we host these sessions for all the students who are incoming. We do like a webinar, we do a kind of chat Q&A, and we also offer individual consultation during that time. Even though you're not physically here yet, we still have that opportunity for students to help with their curricular choices, because the curricular part is probably the biggest thing that you have to really think about before arrival. I mean, besides, booking a flight and stuff, but it is one thing that you have to do. Like, it's a little bit it can be a little stressful because you have to pick them before you're even in the US at times, but we offer support for that.
Okay, thank you. There's a question in the Q&A. Do you do long distance studying options, online courses? All right.
Sorry.
Do you have internship as part of any of your LLM programs, or is it outside LLM? Internship or a form of attachment to a formal legal place where someone can have a practice period?
So we don't recommend that the students work while they study, especially during the first semester. Sometimes, we can work with them for the spring semester, but especially in their first semester, we want them to get a good understanding of what their classroom workload might be like first. That should be the first priority of their LLM. And then second semester, if they think they can build out more time to take on an internship, we can work with them on that. But typically, we do not recommend students working while studying.
Okay, so I think also the question is leaning to, because there's another question related to that. If a person, let's discard internship, if a person decides to take on this work, are there platforms in Northwestern that can either help introduce them to those opportunities, if they want work or if they want to do internships? Let's say they are not part of the program, but while they're there, they would like to get a feel of an international place. Would the school be in position to support, or would it be an individual initiative?
It's a little hard to answer that, only because there are a lot of restrictions regarding visa, like because students who are here on a visa have rules about how they can work outside of school. So I don't want to necessarily answer that, only because it could very much depend on the student. We do, of course, have a lot of people who have connections, and could help you find some extra areas for you to kind of gain some practice experience, but we can't necessarily say that you could do a full-on internship, simply because there would be some visa restrictions regarding that. So yeah, sorry.
It's okay. Do you guys have PhD programs? That's a strange question, but you need to answer it.
So there is one program, and I will admit that I don't know a great deal about it, but we have a JD PhD program, which is one where you would do a JD and then also at the same time study for your PhD, like through the Central University. We also do have an SJD program, so that might be something that a student in this case would be more interested in. If you're already a practicing lawyer, like we have the SJD, which a D also runs. So if you want, we can send sort of, a D is the main point of contact for that. But basically, if a person, you have to kind of connect with somebody at the law school, have a research proposal, maybe you and find a professor to sponsor your research, and then work with a D on that end. We don't get many. It's a very small program. It's one every few years maybe. So, but if you are more interested in that academic, like perhaps you want to be a professor later, that would be an area the SJD program would be.
Actually,
so how big would that class be? On average, 1 person, 5 people?
I mean, I'm not the expert on it, but we typically have, I think we had 1 graduate from it this last, it's definitely usually just 1 at a time at any given time. And it's very sort of individually driven, and it really depends on the research faculty involved.
Yeah,
Yes,
so for the, I actually asked Adi about the SJD program, and it's usually 1 or 2 students every 2 or 3 years. And I think the reason is that mostly in the US, it's not a big program, and most of the people that do it are international students who have been like professors, and they're just looking to get their doctorate. It's not a very popular program, but if you have interests in other fields, you could look into the PhD programs at the Graduate School of Northwestern. And there's also a JD PhD program where you get, a JD and a PhD in 6 years. And those programs are usually fully funded for the 6 years that you're in school. So if, let's say, you're interested in, like having experience in a different field, like maybe political science or psychology or social sciences, you could think about doing a PhD in political science and then getting a US law degree alongside it in the same amount of time, because I know that most doctorate programs will take the same amount of time. So if you can get 2 for 1, I feel it's a good deal, and they are fully funded. So I have a few friends not doing the JD PhD programs, but at the graduate school that are studying and had fully funded scholarships, like everything. They even get a stipend for every month. So that is something that you can definitely look into if you're interested in that. And then someone asked about I saw a question to me about the standard of living in Chicago.
Yes, that was what I was coming to.
Yes, the standard of living, depending on where you're at. If you go to 7-star hotels, it's going to be expensive. If you want to stay in penthouses, it's going to be expensive. But I would say, because it's a very big city, there is room for everyone. And that is the beauty of it. So I would say that I had friends and myself, you find ways of living within a certain budget. So depending on what you're looking for, really, it was all accommodated for. And maybe if you could just be more specific about what you want to know, maybe in terms of, I don't know, rent or living expenses, I don't know.
That's interesting. You have sanitized the answer, but I think people are going to look for you for tea to have the full picture. Relatedly, Julian Kayovio, the question about online classes was answered. They do not provide online or long distance learning. However, in regards to international commercial law, Nell or Gina, could you tell us a little bit about the programs? And it ties into another question that I have that's not in the chat. What's Northwestern known for in terms of your legal program? What's the most, I wouldn't say selling, but that selling point for you as a university? Which program is your strongest point, or are you known for? And in answering that, if you could just also give some insight on your international commercial law programs.
So I can start with that. So we don't, unlike a lot of schools, we don't have really any specialized LLMs. We have just the general LLM, and we have one in international human rights, which is a very small program. And then we do have one tax LLM program, which is one that a lot of domestic, it's made up primarily of domestic students, but is also available to international students. So in terms of the programs we're known for, so we are known for, again, if you go back to the LLM, you get to kind of choose all of the classes you want. So we are probably most well known for our business and commercial law aspects. So even like the JD students who come here, they're usually ones who are seeking out that area of law. So I don't know, Gina, if you want to build upon that, if you have.
I think AI is another, AI tech, IP, that's another area that we're growing in and getting recognized for as well. We have a few faculty members that are really experts in this area of law, and so I think that's a growing area for us. And I think more and more students are coming to us for those kinds of courses.
We also, it wouldn't be applicable to everyone on this call, but we have a program that's called the Masters of Science in Law. This isn't for lawyers, so sorry, but it's a program for STEM students who like just wants an extra master's to learn a little bit about the legal profession. But the reason why I mention it is because we house it at the law school, it does sort of tie into our sort of overall faculty commitment to the law, technology, business overlap. So even though those classes are for students who, you know, are not lawyers or taking separate classes, they have the same faculty members. So we have a lot of faculty specializing in those areas, and then a lot of like, you know, sort of extracurricular opportunities around those areas as well. But that's not a law degree, but it is one that you might see on our website and wonder about.
Okay, I think that pretty much covers it. Brownie Abal is asking about the crime rate, gun violence in Chicago. Please speak to that, because us in the Pearl of Africa, we're used to some sort of peace. Can be qualified.
Again,
However, yes. Could you speak to the crime rate, the gun violence, and in general? Of course, the university might be safe, but those are those places you talked about, the villages, the experience that Elizabeth has been trying to share. What is the crime rate?
I don't know the numbers, I'll be honest. I will say, you know, we get this question a lot. I think that Chicago does have a bad reputation, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. There certainly is crime, and throughout the US, we know there's a great deal of gun violence. One thing I will say is that while no area of the city is completely safe, of course, it's a very large city. A lot of the newsworthy areas, I guess, like the areas that you hear on the news where a lot of these crimes occur, are sort of further removed from the law school. The space around the law school is in the downtown area, and it's usually a safer space, I think. That being said, we have a good NUPD campus police force. We also have opportunities like programming that, like, if you're late at night on campus and you want an escort to walk you home, there are programs that can allow you to do that. So again, I don't know if Gina wants to add to it. It's a very hard thing to speak on because a lot of it is perception, right? But the numbers are there and they're not wrong. But I think, and maybe Elizabeth can add to it, I do think though that it is a city with specific pockets of violence more than anything else, I would say.
I think just like anywhere, just being mindful of, you know, your surroundings. That's extremely important. But I live downtown Chicago. I personally feel safe, but like at night, you know, I would take a taxi or an Uber rather than walk home by myself, right? So just being mindful of your surroundings, and I think you'll be fine. But the law school area, it is typically very safe, very secure. So we do feel safe there.
Okay. So on an average, maybe I'll ask this is to Elizabeth. On average, while you are at campus and in that space, how often did you learn of any crime or violence within the university? Maybe just to lighten this person's question, since you are the ambassador and flag bearer.
So yeah, actually, it was a concern of mine when I was preparing to come to school. When I actually did my visa interview, well, I didn't interview, but the lady looked at the school, and I think at the time there had been shootings in Chicago, and she just told me, this is a great school. And then she said, it's terrible what's happening. And then she told me, come for your visa on Friday. So it was like that easy because the school is great. And there's all these things in the news. But well, I lived in Chicago since July of last year. And I'm still in Chicago and I've not had any incident of, you know, gun violence or crime or I actually feel very safe. At least I'm not worried that someone is going to come and snatch my handbag. You know those stories in some of the parts of Kampala that happen. So I actually feel very, very safe, and I've felt very, very safe for the whole time I've been here, even post-school, because the law school is really, really safe. And the area I lived in was also very safe. I still live in Chicago. I've not had any incident. Although I'm told that the south side of Chicago is a bit problematic. I try to avoid the south side as much as possible. But anywhere from the law school and towards the main campus, which is in Evanston, I think west of the law school as well, great places to live. So yeah, no need to be worried. It's safer than some places in Kampala for sure.
Okay. That's great. That's good to know. I think it puts to rest most people's concern. And of course, most times when people are traveling, they assume it's worse where they're not in a place where they don't call home, even when they mirror back at home and realize they experience much more. But then they've contextualized it as just another aspect of society, but they're more keen to it when they're traveling. So that you don't get exposed to any form of discomfort when you're far from those who you call dear or who would support you and help you.
Yeah, but also
Elizabeth for sharing.
Just to add something, in the unlikely event, and which is really, really unlikely, but in the unlikely event that something were to happen, there is like emergency contacts and police, and like there's so many resources available to you, and there will be prompts on your phone. Sometimes when something happens in the neighborhood, you will know, they will alert you. So highly unlikely, but should it happen, you'll still be very safe.
That's good to know. That's good to know. One of the questions that came in offline, Neil, you talked about a legal English course, and you mentioned that is it taken in the summer before your school starts, or is it taken alongside school? Is it a course you need, or is it something optional? Someone missed out on that information. And if it's taken outside the course, is it issued a certificate, or is it part of your learning experience?
Yeah, so there's sort of two areas that I would mention. So we do have this summer program here that's called Legal English and Foundations. I don't know why I just sent the link in the chat. That's a pre-arrival program. It does cost extra, so there is a fee for that outside of the tuition cost. Again, so a lot of the students are coming there to improve their English, but we do have actually students who come from countries where they have used English their entire lives, and they still come to sort of hone up on general communication and sort of that cultural use of language. And you also take a lot of classes that are like mini classes that are in all the subject areas that like entrepreneurship, corporations, etc. So this is a program you don't receive law school credit for. You do get a certificate at the end of it. And then during the school year, then I run all of the legal English programming, and those are not for credit. Those are just like sort of extra supplemental programs that you can take. So like to sort of boost your writing and speaking skills in class. And those are sort of a variety of different programs that I run, that like some are like more of a specific little writing course. Some are just drop in, learn about a grammar topic, etc.
All right, thank you. Thank you. At least one more for you. Someone is asking, let me read it again. Imagine Nell and Gina aren't around. What was your real experience? Did you enjoy it? Or even if you enjoyed this space?
I think you cut out. I'm sorry. Could maybe you type the question, or I didn't hear it.
The question is to Elizabeth.
Oh.
Yes, assuming Gina and Nell are not in the room.
Oh, okay.
Please share your real experience at the campus did you have challenges? And are they challenges that could be passed on to another international student easily? That another international, I think she's trying to say another international student can experience.
Well, did I enjoy myself? Yes, the LLM program is like an extended vacation, like a really, really extended vacation. Yeah, it's honestly my opinion and my classmates. I won't say it's not that serious because Nell and Gina can hear me. It's actually very serious, and you put in a lot of work, but also it's so much fun. Yeah, forget all the, reading lists that were 100, 300 cases and and forget all the, no, it's amazing. The school, the environment. I remember there's a time I had a wellness ambassadors meeting and they were asking if we had problems. And I thought really, really hard because the other students seemed to have problems. But I thought really, really hard and I had zero complaints. It was such an amazing experience. And especially coming from the professors. So they are very, very flexible. You'll have your professors ask you, do you prefer to come to my office? Do you want us to go out for coffee? Do you prefer a Zoom, like stay at home and we'll just talk over Zoom? So there was a lot of flexibility with that. And unlike some of the places we went to school to where it's your fault for failing, if you are not understanding something in class, the professor takes it upon themselves to make sure you understand. The problem is never you. It's probably in the delivery, or it's in the language, or it's in the method, I don't know, something, but it's not your fault. So you have every resource to excel. I would say when I started out, it was a bit of an adjustment because you're from a different country, different place, different system of teaching. So I had that like for the first month, and then also learning where am I? Where am I? How do I find my way around? How do I get on the train for the first time? And also they couldn't understand my English. I think it was so Ugandan. So I left Uganda studying English and I came here and it was I had to adjust a few things and pronunciation and articulate some of the words so that they better understand me. So complaints, no complaints. I would do it over and over again. And by the time it's like Feb, Jan, you're actually sad because the year goes by so fast. And you're thinking, could they just like extend it like 2 more months so that, this can go on? But yeah, you also read a lot. I don't want to make it seem like it's all fun and no serious work. You put in the work, and because the classes are small and the professors will just call on you, so you don't want to look like you didn't prepare or you don't take class seriously, but it's amazing. And if you're interested in taking the bar exam, wherever, the resources are amazing. If you're going through the visa process, it's different people that help you with that. But oh my God, they are so helpful. I can't emphasize enough, like you're really, really supported. Like going through I think it's the Office of International Students and Scholars. You have a dedicated advisor on that. You have a dedicated advisor for your career, the LLM. You can sign up for counseling services if you want to see a therapist. That's available to you from the school. I don't know. I just feel like the resources are too many. You can't even exhaust them even if you wanted. So Gina and Nell aside, I would still say the same thing. It was a great experience.
I hope they didn't pinch you on the side.
No, they did not.
The question was specific, assuming Gina and Neil were not around in the room. So ladies, I think we come to a close with this session and the information. I know you provide this on a rolling basis, depending on the season and what is necessary. I've seen some people in the chat requiring the recording, but we had switched off the recording. So where can people sign up for other sessions like this that are maybe directly linked to the school? I know most universities have it on their website, applicant information sessions. So when can they expect them? Are they still relevant now in this quarter that you're in? Are you taking more sessions of this nature outside the Law Society, of course, the Uganda Law Society, on Northwestern staff, just so that we can guide people who are asking for recording?
So I'm trying to look on our website. I think there is a place where we let you know when we have admissions related webinars. We do have some people that do travel around the world for recruitment and whatnot too. But once we find the link, we'll share that with you, maybe Julia, and then you can share it with, oh, you found it?
Okay. All right, thank you for sharing that. So ladies, thank you so much for the fun stuff from Gina and the serious stuff from Nell and Elizabeth for the reality check. It has been a dynamic duo, I must say. We've missed Dee Nadi, but I'm sure we'll get more information from her in months to come, and with the partnership we're trying to come up with. Thank you so much for making the time. I know this has been a stretch of many months trying to make this happen. I don't take it for granted that you've made the time, but also that you've taken a specific interest in international students that could be available to study and would want to express interest from Uganda and East Africa. It's a good thing that your live example of Elizabeth is so positive and encouraging, and it sets the bar, because we're trying to look at ways to learn, an alternative way to understand a system that pumps us with so much courses like little relevant. And yes, we speak English, but it's very relevant because those are some of the things that we probably don't have at the LLB level in our various schools. So we're grateful for the time, we're grateful for the commitment, and we're grateful for the access. Elizabeth, thank you so much. We're indebted to you for wanting to share this with other Ugandans, because it was an idea that you came up with and shared with me and then in Adi, which was really fantastic. So on people showing interest, and then we'll come back to you and see more ways that we can collaborate. I know was talking with Dean Adi, she mentioned seeing how lawyers who are graduates from Northwestern can also be supportive in coming through for these webinars to talk to the young lawyers about practice outside Uganda. So we are grateful, we're truly grateful, and we would like to close this session. Any parting remarks? I think we'll take it from Gina, then Nell, then Elizabeth.
It was a true pleasure to speak with you all. I loved having, of course, loved having Nell here always, but Elizabeth to join us and getting her perspective. Everything she said, we did not pay her or anything, so that was that was her honest thoughts. But no, it was a true pleasure. Please let me know if you have any questions. I only take fun questions, so everything else you can send to Nell.
I'll just echo what Gina said. So thank you, everyone. This was great for us to just kind of come and do one of these to a different group of students. So, you know, we've not done this before. It was great to hear about the work you're doing with this group as well, Juliet. So yeah, please feel free to contact us. And there's like in the link we sent, there's some virtual information sessions as well if you want more. And again, also, obviously, thank you, Elizabeth. It was great to see you, but we hope to see all of you here. Maybe not next year, maybe you need some time, but within the next 5 years, we hope to welcome you to the Northwestern.
Thank you so much, Juliet.
Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you so much, Juliet, and thank you so much, Gina and Neil. It's so nice seeing you. It's been, well, a few months. Yes, for the people that may be interested, I know the application process can seem like such a tough task, getting through your personal statements and thinking about, well, every step is challenging in different ways, going through the application, getting, even like waiting for that admission offer or yeah, and then thinking about the accommodation and traveling and what there's a lot of pieces to this. And if you need help, if you need someone to think through, I've had a few people reach out and like share their personal statements and what to just get a second opinion. I'm here for you. I will, or I know people who could be helpful, so I'll be able to connect you to those people, especially if you're interested in other programs like the tax LLM that I didn't get to do, but I know a few friends from the program who would be helpful. So I'm here for you. And yes, I hope you think about Northwestern. You will not regret it. It's a great school and it was a great experience. Thank you.
Ladies, it has been a wonderful panel of only ladies, as the gentleman mentioned earlier. He's looking for more gentlemen. So I think in our next
Juliet, I think your network is, we're not able to hear you.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to wish you a lovely Friday evening. Let me not keep you here any longer. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye-bye.